CentralFloridaPolitics.com, where Central Florida turns for political news.
Distinct pleasure to now announce to you, let's welcome with me former Speaker of the Florida House, who is currently campaigning for Martinez's Senate seat against Charlie Crist, who recently socialized insurance in Florida. Please welcome with me Mr. Rubio.
Thank you very much. I know it's warm, so I'll be brief. We have so many great speakers here today, and I'm honored to be here with you today. 233 days to the very day where the Declaration of Independence was signed. A document that said some very simple but profound truths. The Declaration of Independence said that every single one of us, in fact, every man, woman, and child ever born, is born with certain unalienable rights, rights that belong to them from their Creator. It says that the purpose of government, chief among those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It says that the only purpose of government is to protect those rights and liberties. And it says that the only power that government has is the power that the people, you and I, allow government to have. Upon those principles, this nation founded itself on a constitutional republic. A constitutional republic that limited the size and scope of the federal government. And the result was a period of prosperity and liberty unrivaled in human history. That's why there has never been a people as free or as prosperous as the American people in the history of the world. But over the last few decades, in particular over the last few years, our federal government has grown at a pace and to a size unimaginable by the founders of our country. In fact, if the folks who signed that declaration 233 years ago were brought to this very day, they would not recognize the federal government that now runs this country. Not its size, not its scope, and not its practices. The sad truth is that both the Republican and Democratic Party are guilty of expanding the size and scope of the federal government. Republicans for 10 years held the majority or longer, and did not do enough to bring about things such as meaningful tax reform, limitation of the size and scope of the federal government. But what we've seen over the last 6 months is unprecedented in American history. An expansion and planned expansion of the American government that will fundamentally redefine the country in which we live, and not for the better, but rather further away from the founding principles that bring us here today. Now, I want to be clear with you. I am running for the United States Senate as an American in the Republican Party because I believe the Republican Party is the only viable movement that could potentially speak to these issues that I've outlined to you today. Our nation is in desperate need of authentic and genuine voices that understand the proper role of the federal government and bring it back under control. Voices that understand that a country that cannot protect and control its borders cannot prosper and survive. Voices that understand that a government that spends money it does not have by borrowing it from foreigners and printing it devalues our future, our currency, and our economy. Voices that understand that government cannot create enduring prosperity, that jobs and opportunity in America have never been created by senators or presidents, but by hard-working risk-takers and entrepreneurs, by people who take their life savings to pursue a dream, and by accomplishing that, create jobs, create industry, create businesses that are the backbone of our liberties and our economic success. I close by saying to you this. Of all the generations in American history, perhaps mine is as guilty as any of taking for granted the extraordinary prosperity and liberty that we have. Too many of us who now share this country have come to believe that the greatness of America is automatic, that it just happens on its own. And yet we have forgotten the historical lessons of not so long ago. Lessons that teach us that every generation of American must stand up and face the issues of their time, confront them and solve them. And because every generation of American has done that, every generation of American has inherited a better country and more opportunity than the one before them. But today, when I leave Central Florida and return to my home in South Florida, I will interact with my young children, the oldest of which is only 9.
Oh yeah, we'll take care of that.
And my 4 children are members of the first generation of Americans on the verge of inheriting a country worse off than the ones their parents knew. They're on the verge of that, Because the scourge of modern American politics are leaders that refuse to lead. Politicians that are more interested in being popular and winning elections than in solving problems and ensuring our future. People that run for office and will say anything they have to say to win your vote. And 4 years from now, they'll say whatever they have to say then. They are on behalf. They stand for whatever is popular at that moment, and they'll embrace whatever political fad of the time may be. But we're reminded that leadership and popularity have never been the same thing. Popularity basically requires you to take a poll and embrace whatever will make it look good tomorrow. Leadership requires you to make decisions that are based on the future, not just the present. Most of all, leadership requires you to allow history, not your contemporaries, to be the judge of your work. America is a great nation because each generation of Americans has been led by leaders willing to do what had to be done at that moment so that the next generation of Americans would inherit the promise of this great land. And that is the task before you and I now. This generation of leadership is not exempt from the requirements of greatness. And the future of our country will be determined by the decisions we make or fail to make at this moment in our history. Those are the stakes of our time, and they have never been higher. I am proud to stand with you, the increasingly not-so-silent majority of Americans who want the country they love and adore back, who want to once again live in a land where people, not government, determines the course of their lives and the outcome of their future.
Thank you, Marco!
I was afraid someone would start chanting polo, and then it would get complicated. Let me close by saying I want to serve in the U.S. Senate. Not for the title, not for the position. That is the wrong reason to run for politics. The wrong reason to run for office is because you need to be in office. I want to serve in the United States Senate because I truly believe with all of my heart that the decisions we will make at the federal level over the next few years will determine for a generation or longer whether America will continue to be the freest, most prosperous nation on earth. That is the country my parents left me. My children and your children deserve no less. I need your help. I hope I can encourage you to go on our website, marcorubio.com, sign up and become a part of our movement. If we continue to work together in manners such as days like today, if we continue to work together, this increasingly not-so-silent majority of Americans, we can change the course of our destiny. We can change our future. And we can once again ensure that the next generation of Americans will inherit what every generation of American has inherited throughout our history, a country better than the ones their parents had. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you.